Thank you to everyone that's been watching. Hey, the numbers are going up. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the Facebook family. And I tell people I don't have any control of what happens in Facebook sometimes because it's an open thread and they just do what they do. So forgive me if there's something there you didn't like or anything like that. A little conflicted today. Been an interesting week for me. A week of challenge, change, and realizations that sometimes you have to take a little bit less to get a little bit more. And so with that, I want to welcome everybody. This is the end of June. Ms. Howard, in fact, good afternoon. This is our new edition of Education Best Medicine, sponsored by Isaac Concious. So, Ms. Howard, last week was Juneteenth, as I was, great event. Please try to attend it next year. We wanted to, again, it's a family-friendly event, and we like the things that are going on. Well, she's also now, Ms. Howard's doing a special mail event where she's kind of helping and, identify issues, key issues, and addressing them from a person-centered care point. And want to thank Curtis for doing security there. And I want to thank Etymology and the Believe Radio family. And you have to get these things out because I don't want anyone to ever think that, I am too big for my britches. So just want to talk about life a little bit and transition. And sometimes we have to be ready for change, or the change is going to change us. And end of June is a special month. We've already talked about a number of issues: Mother's Day, Father's Day, and we want to also give a special shout out to the LGBT community. And as the celebrations go off, please be careful out there, be safe, take care of yourself. I acknowledge it, and I will continue to acknowledge it, acknowledge the community, because of the two men that probably got me started in medicine. In fact, they did get me started in medicine, Dr. Robert Scott and Arian James Holmes. I call these my friends, my mentors, and folks that throughout my life, up until Dr. Scott's passing, were just monumental in me moving forward and growing. And I want to thank them publicly and as well as personally, because I didn't know what they were getting me into. And but it's okay. Well, and that brings me to one of the key frames in this discussion. And just get tested, get HIV tested. You're seeing a lot of commercials in regards to that. HIV is still out there. It's still a killer. It's still it's now attacking a young population that's really not prepared for lifelong chronic illness. Seeing a lot of mixtures of substance use disorder, in particular methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin. And it's a very challenging picture. Again, there's a new self-awareness in the LGBT community, and the discussions of personal pronouns like mine is he, him, and the discussions of how people identify who they think they are as a person. I think are really important. That, for me as a clinician, how I think you should identify, because you could have you can have the female package or the male package and identify in a different fashion. And I have to accept that and deal with the care of a very specialized population. Again, get tested. Simple. There's oral tests, there's blood tests, there's vans, there's free testing, because you don't want to be someone that's a vehicle for an HIV infection in the community, particularly around your loved ones and people that you are personal with. And again, this is Pride Month. So take pride in who you are and all the things that go on. I was looking at the June in the National Health Observances, a couple of them: Alzheimer's, interesting because we'll talk about that. Sickle cell, and we just talked about HIV testing. Get it done. And I'm kind of on this thing about situational things in history, particularly as it relates to African American. And the question I said is, what situations in history have one taking less but end up receiving more, particularly as it relates to African Americans? And so, ask GBT chat, and but first, I want to talk about one of the bigger issues that we come about is sickle cell disease. And sickle cell is a genetic disorder, and it's characterized by abnormal hemoglobin, which is the oxygen carrying component of the cell. And what happens is the conversion to hemoglobin S, which causes the red blood cells to become rigid and sickle like a scythe, where the Grim Reaper carries this long pole with a blade on it that's sickle-like. And so these are the kind of apropos too, because up until the last couple of years, it's always been a devastating illness in the African American as communities of color, as well as communities that were exposed to malaria. And it causes red blood cells become rigid and sickle-shaped. And under certain conditions, the shapes can lead to various complications due to impaired blood flow through the small blood vessels. So that's the crux of this disease, is that the red blood cells, take on the S-like shape, S trait, and become stuck basically, plugging up the vascular at the tips of the toes, at the fingers, and as you progress up, this kind of sickling and blockage of these vessels can affect every part of the body, including the heart, the lungs, the vascular system, and again, it's a discussion of just the plumbing being blocked in the vascular system, particularly people who have this particular condition. And I asked about its relationship to malaria because this is a disease that has a relationship to malaria. And so this is the way how we got sickle cell. Sickle cell trait was carrying one copy of the sickle cell gene and provides a degree of protection against malaria. And yet, in other words, for a person to get the disease, you'd have to have a parent, a mother, and father that both had the sickle S trait and gave it to their children. So one child wouldn't have the disease, two children would carry the trait, and the other child would carry the disease. Individuals with sickle cell trait are usually less prone to develop severe forms of malaria or Plasmodium falciparum. I just butchered that. The most deadly species of the malaria parasite. So this is how we survive malaria, is that our bodies genetically converted to sickle S trait that was able to resist the malaria exposure, because again, at that point it would be deadly. And you have discussions around malaria causing epidemics, pandemics. And the mechanism for this, and again, the mechanism, the protective effect is thought to be due to the fact that the sickle cell red blood cells are less hospitable to the malaria parasite, making it more difficult for the parasite to complete its life cycle within the cells, thereby basically starving it out. But what happens when a person has sickle cell disease? In my experience, lots of pain, lots of fear, lots of anxiety, because they suffer from, and we'll talk about it, pain crises where they just start to hurt for no reason at all. That is one of the discussions about management, is the constant need to have pain managed. And then the cultural aspects of people of color being under-medicated for pain and diseases like this. I'm not against pain medicine. I'm against inappropriate use of pain medicines and pain medicines for recreational use that are provided by a provider. Those are the things that I'm concerned about, as well as the black market or white market, depending on who you're talking to. So, again, pain crisis. Episodes of severe pain, sickle cell crisis, as it's called, in which the is due to the blocked blood flow and tissue damage. And these crises can occur in various parts of the body, including the bones, abdomen, and chest. Makes sense, right? And in some cases, a person could be having a heart attack with sickle cell, and they just think it's a sickle cell crisis, but in reality, the person is really having a heart attack. The sickle cells have a shorter lifespan than normal blood cells, leading to chronic anemia. So these folks are always tired. Their energy, so they're hurting. They're always tired because of the blockage of the sickling cells, S cells, and the prevention of oxygenated blood and nutrients to flow to those tissues and waste products away. Remember, the vascular system is blocked by the cell, so it can't receive nutrients nor can it take waste products away. Organ damage, which causes organ damage. So fatigue due to reduced oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, a person is anemic and also becomes tired. So these people are chronically tired, chronically in pain. It's very, very, in my initial career, starting my first sickle cell patients just were doing poorly because we weren't able to manage them, and we thought they were pain seekers. And then once we learned about the disease, we still treat them like they were pain seekers as opposed to managing the disease. So this just implored me for people with sickle cell to seek care where a provider understands the issues, and hopefully these systems will adapt to that. The systems are going through a conversion now because things like patient-centered care, things like shared decision-making are some things that these major systems don't want to appreciate because it costs them time and money, and you can't move the product, which is a human being, as quick when you're listening to the problems that they have. I thought that was medicine was about, but tell me I'm wrong. I think that's why a lot of providers retired post-COVID, before COVID and after COVID, because they were tired of treating people less than human. And so we have to have to reset in the healthcare society on the humanist quotient, on the humanity quotient, on the empathy quotient, so that we can provide care not from my perspective, as I said in many discussions I've had in the last couple of months, but from the patient's perspective. And that seems just so uncomfortable when I say that. It's like I'm supposed to say, no, we're going to treat the patient like they are a McDonald's hamburger, a fast food hamburger, and get them in and get them out. That's why people are feeling the way they're feeling in terms of care. Organ damage, prolonged sickle cell disease can cause damage to organs such as the spleen, the kidneys, the liver, the lungs, due to repeated episodes of blockage and reduced blood flow. Again, not only the blood flow is blocked, it's not taking the waste products away. So all this stuff sets in people's system. See, and in the literature, it always talks about what the damage is, but not the peripheral damage. And I always want to make people remember and try to, the sickle cells are blocking the vessels, and that's where all the fatigue and pain crises are happening. But it's also not allowing unoxygenated and waste products to be taken out of the blood, so they sit there in the person's system, which leads to infections, more susceptible to infection, and particularly pneumonia. And how do we treat sickle cell? Again, talk to your provider. Go get evaluated, get tested. And if you're a sickle cell client that's just stayed out of care because of how you feel, you just have to address that care and educate people to the disease. And maybe you meet somebody like me that gets it. Now, is everybody going to get it? No, because they think that sickle cell is a pain-seeking disease. No, it's a disease of management. It's a disease of quality of life. It's a disease of trauma. It's a disease of every part of your life being chronically tired, chronically in pain, having to have your spleen removed because it's damaged, getting pneumonia as a youth. Again, not very good, not fun for you. You can't go out. You can't hang out. You have to be careful what you drink, what you eat, because anything seems like can trigger a sickle cell crisis, even sex. So there's symptomatic treatment, as we knew, as we understand, and now the evidence showed pain management is a cornerstone of treatment during sickle cell crisis. Not pain seeking, not addiction, but pain management. That means going to a pain management program, and if provided pain medicine such as hydrocodone, you have to be ready for drug testing and pill counts and all those things that go with preventing people from overdosing or using these drugs outside their normal range, and ended up on the black market. Although a lot of the opiates now are copies of drugs, and there's a high amount of fentanyl in them. So that's where we're getting all these folks that are overdosing and dying because the medicine, the drugs that they think they're getting aren't. And they're laced with garbage, and they're laced with high components of fentanyl as well as stimulants. So all this stuff is in one pill, and it's just wreaking havoc in a group that's younger, in a group that is somewhat drug naive. In other words, when I first started practicing doing addiction medicine, my clients were 10 or 20 years into opiate use and had really high tolerances. These folks don't have those tolerances. These folks have been using maybe 4 to 5 years at the max. We're seeing a younger group of folks use, and a large number being dependent. So, again, with sickle cell disease, we treat the symptoms, and it may also we call long-term pain medicines, which means people need to get the pain management. It's just a part. Now we're a team approach now, and I think that the system understands, and the literature is saying there has to be a team approach, and you can't go and individually try to match an individual. It's a team. For sickle cell, it'd be neurologist, it could be a pulmonologist, it could be a hematologist, it could be again pain management, it could be a surgeon, it could be a psychosocial behavioral counseling, because chronic illness as a young person and always sick and always in the hospital can have devastating mental effects, anxiety, depression, can't go to the ball, in the hospital doing all the activities that people involve themselves in as they're graduating from school. Blood transfusions. Not only blood transfusion, but a drug called hydroxyurea. This is just, boy, how old am I? This was a new drug when I first started practicing. Hydroxyurea is a medicine to help reduce the frequency of pain crises by increasing fetal hemoglobin production, which interferes with the polymerization of sickle cell. In other words, it prevents the fetal cell from increasing, and thereby it interferes with its replication, and thereby allows for less sickling as well as less decrease in pain. Not resolution, but decrease. And then there's the bone marrow transplant. The only potential cure for sickle cell disease involves a bone marrow or stem cell transplant from a comparable donor, which can replace the patient's defective bone marrow with healthy marrow capable of producing normal red blood cells. I've seen it, I've heard it. I don't know how long it lasts. I don't know if there, it works for a period of time that it stops, because the core of their cell making capabilities is still sickle cell. Yeah, so. But what they have now is what's called CRISPR technology. It's a gene editing, and it's not weird. It's not weird science. No one's going to clone you. This is the ability to replace that defective gene in a person's system. I've seen some really good responses from it in a young African American man who was, like, I think he was 12 or 14, and his parents decided to put him in this CRISPR trial. And he's just doing real well. So there's an ongoing research into using CRISPR-Cas9 technology to correct the genetic mutation responsible for sickle cell disease. Isn't that wild? They can now go on your DNA, find that particular gene, and remove it and replace it with a normal one so that you start to produce normal DNA. What ramifications is that going to have? Well, for this young African American who's been having crises all his life, it meant a year out of the hospital. It meant him healthy and thinking and functioning. Because being chronically ill that young can have a devastating toll on you, like young diabetics. Anybody that has young and chronic disease, it's a toll on them psychologically, emotionally, and physically. Whether I want to have children, issue. I want to get married, issue. I want to travel up and do a mountain climbing expedition, issue. Because of the decreased oxygen and the anemia from the sickling cells, they probably don't get, any higher than maybe 10 or 12,000 feet before they start having problems. Because the less air, the more sickle crisis, because you have less functioning red blood cells and more of the sickle cells blocking vasculature. So I said the approach aims to modify bone marrow stem cells outside the body, then transplant them into the body, potentially offering a curative treatment. A curative treatment for sickle cell. My opinion is that this is when science overtakes racism, because this is a therapy made to order for a person with an abnormal set of abnormal genetics. And they talk about going on in the bone marrow to alter those abnormal cells, a gene. Outstanding. No medicines. He just gets his bone marrow replaced by this altered CRISPR. I think they take his, take it out, take the gene off that they need, put the gene on right, and put it back, almost like plumbing, right? Man, I think the folks that did this got a Nobel Prize for it too. So that's the other piece. Current says, while progress in CRISPR treatments for sickle cell disease is still in experimental stages, but clinical trials are underway to access safety and efficacy. I would say that if you are having multiple sickle cell pain crisis and you just got out of the hospital, you should see if you can become a part of one of these trials. What do you got to lose? We are afraid of technology because we've had a reason to be afraid of it. But this technology, myself as a clinician, when I sit in front of a person with sickle cell and I don't have anything to offer them for the last 30 years, now I have something to offer them. But of course, the therapy is expensive, it's experimental, but that's what it is. And so that's sickle cell. You test it, you treat it, try to get into some of the studies. And I brought up this question in my mind. I said I wanted to find out, have 3 examples of African Americans in America who faced situations that started with less but achieved more. Well, I went back to GPT chat. Now, I would have thought, maybe Malcolm X or Malcolm X comes to mind. Malcolm X comes to mind for me. So, they picked Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was born in slavery in Virginia in 1856. Booker T. Washington faced immense challenges early in life. Well, if you were born into slavery, how much more challenge could you have? So I guess we all our ancestors were basically Booker T. Washington's, because those born into slavery had a far way to go. Achievement. Against all odds, he became one of the most influential African American leaders of his time, advocating for education, vocational training for Americans. He founded the Tuskegee Institute, now the Tuskegee University, which provided practical education to African Americans, empowering them to enter skilled trades and profession. While his alter, W.E.D. Du Bois, was some would say, and I would say intellectual, and a man of letters and a scholar who believed that those that were well educated and had to give back. He called them the talented 10th. So 1/10 of the population with the best educations, with the best training, with the best inwards into society must give back. I guess we have to think about that one. Next was a woman, Madam C.J. Walker, or Sarah Breedlove was her real name. Born in 1867 to a formerly enslaved parents. Get the kind of tone here that the people that really had to overcome things in America had to overcome it in the vestiges of slavery. That's why it's so important. That's why we need to understand it. Nothing happens in this country without slavery from 1619 on. The economic wealth, the power, the prestige, the strength, the arsenal, none of that happens without 20 Africans that land on Plymouth Rock. And as Malcolm said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. I want to thank my Facebook family. I want to thank Believe Radio, 24-hour respiration. I'm covering for Miss Barbara Howard, who's doing an event of male empowerment just finished up Juneteenth. Oh, man, I tell you, good stuff. I want to thank Curtis. I want to thank Animology. And we're going to be pretty soon doing Zoom calls to some of the guests that I have on tap. You're going to love that. I'm going to be talking with Animology in the next couple of days to get that started. So hopefully in the next couple of shows we'll be doing Zoom-ins to some of my favorite people. Because they want to do the show, it's just hard for them to get to the station. I understand that, so we're going to make that happen. And so Miss Walker, her achievement, she became the first, not first African-American female, but the first female self-made millionaire. Can you imagine post-slavery becoming the first female, white or black, self-made millionaire? We are such a powerful people. We are such a strong people. That's why we have to be okay with that. Want to say thank you to Deborah Smith and Dr. Angela Green. She's getting ready to start a new position. I understand. I'm not going to say the position. I'm not going to say at. I want to leave that private. If you know her, fine. But she's getting ready to do some big things. I'm really impressed. And just want to say thank you to her and Deborah Smith and all the folks that have made my work kind of cool. Bernard Fisher. And want to thank the personal hair notes from Parnetta's gallery. Again, get out there and start doing your exercise. Tie your hair up. Wear your braids. Make sure you're oiling your scalp. Be okay with taking care of yourself. So, yeah, she was the first self-made millionaire in America through her successful business ventures in hair and products for African-American women. Walker's entrepreneurship was not only provide economic independence for herself, but also created job opportunities for many African American women who worked as sales agents for her products. Each one teach one. Don't be a hater. Share what you have. If one of your colleagues has the chance to get a position and you can help them get it, help them get it. Don't be a hater. What in your position in the first place is God's position. My mom said, this ain't none of your jobs. This is God's job. This is God's position. The last one they used was Barack Obama. Barack Obama was born to a Kenyan father and a white American mother. Kind of like slavery, huh? Raised by a single mother, kind of like African American men. I get lost, huh? Okay. And grandparents in Hawaii. So Barack Obama is an example of an extended family that encircled him, and with that encirclement, he became such a powerful individual. And when he met the love of his life, Michelle, he just took off. There was nothing could stop him. We went from a president that led the Harvard paper to who wanted that barely reads newspapers unless it's about him. Interesting, huh? Achievement, again, against all odds. When he wasn't from a slave family, but his intersection being from a mixed family and as a man of color would have never positioned him to be president, but it did. Against significant odds, Obama became the first African-American president of the United States, serving 2 terms from 2009 to 2017. This presidency marked a historical moment in American history and was a significant milestone for racial equality, so we think, and representation in the representation of the highest office in the land. And this was GBT's example of folks that have overcome African American. But I asked the question, I said, give me the name of African Americans who were demonized for their views and ended up being right. This was interesting. One prominent example of an African American who was demonized for their views but later proven right is Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick. Demonization. Kaepernick's peaceful protest sparked intense controversy and criticism. He was accused of disrespecting the flag and the military, leading to a backlash from fans, politicians, even other athletes, and it cost him his career. He had just played in the Super Bowl the year before. And that's when Malcolm says to be a man, to represent a man, to be intentional as a man at this time in this place by any means necessary. Not verbatim, but somewhat of the quote. Also want to give a shout out to Dr. Lenore and his wife. Had a chance to meet them this week. Look forward to working with them. And let him know that you heard me talk about him and the wife on the show. He and I are talking about some collaborations. I'm so excited about it. Dr. Lenore has been a line in the community, and we need to always kind of, give a head up support to whatever he's doing, because he really has had the interest of the community in his heart. He take care of himself, but he's definitely tried to keep the interest of the community in his heart. So, proven right. Despite the backlash of being ostracized by the NFL, Kaepernick's protest drew attention to the issues of racial injustice and police violence against African Americans. That was his message. His message was the continued brutalization of African Americans by the police, and he asked for it to stop. Why would he lose his career for protesting acknowledgement of something that we know is an ongoing issue. Ask George Floyd. And it continues. His message gained renewed support following the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other black individuals by police officers, sparking global protests and re-examining of systemic racism. So that's why he's important. He risked his career and he lost his career behind doing the right thing. And I guess that's all. We have to decide whether we're going to do the right thing. We need to vote this year like our lives depend on it, because it does. And we have two clear choices. Two clear choices. We have a choice of law and order and upholding the institution, the Constitution as is written, to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's what it's about. It's about women's rights. It's about women's right to her body, to control her body. It's about the ability to vote in an election. We have to vote because the courts are not going to favor us. Can't you see it? They were designed by McConnell. This is McConnell's courts. These are all the judges he and Trump picked. The one that's holding up his trial in Florida was handpicked by him. And as we see, when you don't have people that agree with you or you're doing the right thing, you are always ostracized, you're always villainized, you're always demonized. It says the impact of Kaepernick's stance since been acknowledged as president and courageous. As his actions paved the way for athletes and activists to use their platforms to advocate for social causes. In 2020, the NFL publicly acknowledged that they had mishandled Kaepernick's protest and expressed support for peaceful protests against racial inequality. What kind of man is that, huh? He loved it. He loved football. He was good at it. He was great at it. And he still can't get a job today. I don't care what they say. Because when a black man stands up, they want him to stand down. When a black woman stands up, they want her to stand down. Ask the family of Henrietta Lacks. Well, and I'm sure everyone watched the debates. You know, I didn't, because I'm that 80% said that my vote's not going to change anyway. I think where we're going, where we're headed under the Biden presidency has been the right thing to do. He's allow rescue when you can't hold one day against him. That's like a athlete having a bad day at the plate. That don't define his career. It's define he had a bad day at the plate. And I said, you can't have a snapshot in this time. And it's not a horse race. This goes till November the 5th. That's when we'll play this out. Anytime you define someone by one instant, you just want to define them because that person opposite, but look at the person opposite him. I said this in a reflection, and I texted on Facebook. I said, if you're not sure, I don't understand how American can support an individual who's a convicted sex predator, who has been called for 35 counts of fraud, also business fraud, and he's just not a nice person. He's a racist. He continues to spout racist edicts throughout his time. He's never changed who he is. You know him coming a mile away. And I do not believe that a number of African Americans, because he is or he says a number of African Americans relate to him because he's been to jail. I don't think so. What does that say about us? What does that say about his ability to lie on any term? Forget what Biden was saying. Listen to the guy and him lying. He's lying to a national audience. And what they catch is Biden misstepped. And I say that President Biden's worst day wouldn't even equals Trump's best day. You will obviously be better by Biden's worst day than Trump's best day. I understand it's a debate, and we'll go through this until. But June is also Alzheimer's month. I want to kind of talk about the disease and as it relates to dementia. So we can understand dementia is the family, and Alzheimer's is one of the children. And when you're talking about cognitive changes or the way a person thinks, so cognitive, what? Define it, right? Cognitive is how I think, how I understand, collect, and make assumptions, make assumptions and do certain actions from what I learn and think. The opposite of that is dementia, when you can't retain those things, when you can't learn. And also, key, it changes the quality of your life and your ability to function. President Biden may have some cognitive decline, but he's highly functioning. Highly functioning. And has been a champion of the people from day one. Not his interest, but the interest of the American people. That's what we should be voting on. And what is Trump talking about? He's talking about retribution. He's talking about weaponization of the Justice Department. Weaponization means they really will come for you. That's what he's talking about. He's going to weaponize it against his enemies, and any problems that he's having, any suits or court orders, anything that he's going to wipe them off because he'll be president. Oh, just go in and say, not that you should stay on trial, that I'm just going to get rid of them. Is that the kind of person you want as a president? Abuser, liar, cheater. And then, I can clean it up. This just goes back to plantation slavery. When the ex-slave master could just do what he wanted to do and it was just wiped out because he was the ex-master. And the lies back and forth, his court turned over Roe v. Wade. And if he gets in and allowed to do the other two justices that are going to get off the court pretty soon, then he's have a walkthrough because they're already favoring him. How dare they? How dare they ruin the court? How dare they take away the legitimacy of the court by their childish, myopic actions? So, this is the future of America. And this noble experiment can come crashing down. And they said it would come from within. They said the issue won't come from outside. The issue will come from within. No, I do not believe in the wholesale slaughter of Palestinians. Yes, I believe in a ceasefire, and I believe that there should be a two-state solution to this issue. It should have been. It should have been a long time ago. This could have been avoided. And now that we've lost our thirst for oil, do we really need to be in the middle of a conflict? This is why we're moving to electrical. we have another country that has resources that we need that can manipulate our economy. Aren't you tired of that? That's worth electrical. Are you tired about a gas bill, including maintenance of the car? Those folks, I ain't hating them. We'll tell them they don't have to worry about gas. Now, you may not agree with Elon Musk, and I don't, but that's the future. Get with it. You want to stop being jerked around by those that own the oil, including Russia, then you take it out the game. And you take a major piece of CO2 and global warming off the table. As soon as they get the bugs out of it, just like, cars didn't always run like cars. There were many bugs in cars. Till they figured out the process. People are so impatient. It's almost another 15 minutes of the show, and I want to go through a few things here. Thank you again for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Yeah, it gets us to mild cognitive decline, which refers to mild cognitive impairment. It's a condition characterized by notable cognitive changes that are greater than expected for a person age, but not significant to interfere with daily function. Get that. Noticeable cognitive changes that are greater than expected for a person's age, but do not significantly interfere with daily functioning. I don't think there's any problem with President Biden's daily functioning. He got it down pat. None of us remember everything. None of us are as active or fast. None of us are pretty as sexy as we were. Everything changes. It represents an intermediate stage between normal age-related cognitive changes and more serious cognitive decline associated with dementia, such as Alzheimer's. He is nowhere near Alzheimer's. He may be tired from traveling all over the place and dealing with these day-to-days. Pain of his son being, found on federal charges that he could have blocked, but he didn't. See, that's a president to me. He's not going to change the game for his own son. That means he ain't going to change the game for the modern American. He's going to be all Americans. If his son has to stand trial and be found guilty and deal with the consequences of his actions, so does everyone else. He's already said he's not going to pardon them. Again, we've got a clear choice. So, cognitive changes. Individuals with mild cognitive impairment may experience memory problems such as forgetting recent events or having difficulty recalling information that has been previously known. Other cognitive domains such as language, attention, and executive function, planning, problem solving may also be mildly affected. Who doesn't have mental changes? Who doesn't forget stuff? Who is anybody saying that they were sharp as they was 10 years ago? No. You may have more experience, but just for the act of aging. Functional independence. Despite cognitive change, these individuals with MCI can generally still perform everyday activities independently without significant assistance, which is him. Awareness. They may be aware of the cognitive difficulty, which they can cause concern and anxiety. Who isn't? Who isn't getting older? Who isn't changing? Relationship to Alzheimer's disease. MCI is considered a risk factor for developing Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia. And there are a couple other forms of dementia. However, not everyone with MCI will progress to dementia. Yes. Cognitive changes are normal and natural issues with aging. It's when you have things that can alter your life. Like driving a car. Like surgery. Like any of that. Any of those things that could be an issue. And I think we got at least 4 more years of him left. Give them that. You got to give them that. Because the alternative is something we don't even go down again. And again, there's a force that wants him back in office so he can do what? What is he going to do? He's going to finish the job? That's like being assaulted and let the person that assaults you come back into your house and assault you some more because you didn't feel like you didn't feel like he was enough, which is sick. Progressive rate studies in the individual with MCI mild cognitive impairment, especially amnesia or memory impairment, is a dominant system have increased risk of progressing to Alzheimer's disease over time. However, the rate of progression varies among many individuals, and many remain stable or even improve. Biomarker changes such as brain imaging, MRI-PT scans, and cerebral spinal fluid analysis may provide insights into underlying pathology. Evidence of the beta amyloid plaques and top tangles. That's the beta amyloid plaques and top tangles, which is what happens in this protein that just kind of gets hard. So it just, again, blocks normal blood flow, normal messaging, creates an environment for loss of progression to Alzheimer's, which is the most common form of dementia. Clinical evaluation. A comprehensive clinical evaluation by healthcare professionals is essential for diagnosis of MCI and assessing the risk of progression to dementia. This evaluation includes a detailed history, cognitive testing, and sometimes imaging or biomarker assessment. So if he had heart disease, would you tell him he couldn't be present? If he had diabetes, you tell him he couldn't be present? You tell him he suffered from adverse childhood trauma, as he has, adverse trauma in terms of loss of his wife and his child in a car accident a number of years ago. Now his son being incarcerated, at the risk of being incarcerated. If that don't weigh heavy on your mind and make you forget, then you're not human, because it makes me forget. Makes me forget. Monitoring individuals with MCR is typically monitored over time. Tracking changes in cognitive function or daily living skills. Risk reduction, lifestyle modifications, regular physical exercise, a balanced diet, social engagement, and cognitive stimulation may help reduce the risk of dementia. Look, he's using his brain a lot. So for people that don't use their brain a lot, there are people that are sitting in a living room looking outside as the traffic goes by, they get worse. He has no time to get worse. He's exhausted. Clinical trials. Clinical trials for potential treatments for individuals and delaying the onset of dementia progression is another option for some individuals. In summary, mild cognitive impairment represents a stage of cognitive decline that is greater than expected for age, but does not significantly impair daily function. It is associated with an increased risk of progression to Alzheimer's, in which there is an impairment of daily function, right? Particularly in cases of amnesic mild cognitive impairment. Early diagnosis, monitoring, and appropriate management are crucial for individuals to today and mitigate the issues coming with dementia. So, and again, there's some types. You got Alzheimer's disease, a progressive neurodegenerative disease, or characterized by cognitive decline, memory loss, and eventually inability to perform tasks. When sensitivity develops slowly and worsen over time, affect memory, thinking, and behavior. Impact. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia among older adults. It affects many people worldwide with a significant impact on the individual's family and healthcare system. And there's such things as vascular neurocognitive disorder, Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal lobe dementia, and the impact in the United States. Prevalence. Alzheimer's disease is a major public issue. It's a major public health concern in the United States, affecting an estimated 6.2 million Americans aged 65. He's in his 80s. The number is expected to rise as the population ages. The cost, the financial impact of Alzheimer's is substantial, with an estimated cost of about $355 billion annually. This includes direct medical costs as well as the value of unpaid caregiving. Caregiving family members provide a significant portion of caregiving, which can impact their own health and well-being. Again, who takes care of the caregiver? Research and support efforts are going to understand the cause of Alzheimer's disease better, develop treatments to slow or halt its progression, provide support for affected individuals and their families. It's a family thing. It's a family thing. Again, we talked about Governor Newsom, the mental health initiative. Again, get help. You have mentalhealthcalifornia.gov. Again, in terms of transparent, California is looking ahead in terms of developing mental health skills for youth, young adults to older Californians, parents, and family veterans, and everyone in between. And it should be easier to access mental health services. Then the last issue is men's health. Men's health is observed in June. It highlights important health issues and concerns and awareness of action to improve men's health outcomes. And in 2024, some of the concerns were mental health, of course. We've been talking about it so much. Mental health issues including depression, anxiety, and suicide are significant concerns for men. Men often face pressures that discourage seeking help and lead to underdiagnosis and inaccurate stigma of mental health. Cardiovascular health. Man, number one killer of men. Heart attack, stroke, silent heart attack, stroke, asymptomatic presentation of heart attack and stroke. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death among men in many countries, including the United States. Risk factors such as blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, and sedentary lifestyle contribute to cardiovascular disease. Of all the things that I've been reading about and kind of like redoing the literature as I read and kind of continue my lifelong learning journey, hypertension seems to be the common thread to heart disease. If you can reduce and control blood pressure, you can reduce and control some of the major issues: aortic dissection, heart failure, vascular stroke, heart attack. These things can really be limited in their effect if the blood pressure is normalized. And for men, prostate health and testicular health. Prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men after skin cancer. I thought it would have been lung cancer, but I guess that's not. Prostate cancer is the most common. Well, maybe not, because men are decreased. Everybody's claiming that when they're smoking. Prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men after skin cancer. Every early testing through regular screening and PSA tests. This is why you have to go for annual early screening. You get the PSA, you get the chest X-ray, you get the blood work, you get the screenings that are important for men at this point in their age. Screening will resolve a lot of the things, or not let them blow up into things that we can't do anything about. Testicular health, testicular cancer, primary infection in men. Awareness of self-examination and prompt medical attention for any abnormality. Physical fit. And we talk about physical fitness and nutrition. Maintaining a healthy weight, regular physical exercise, and a balanced diet are critical for overall health. And that old beast, substance abuse. And there's targets. I want to thank folks for tuning in. I want everyone to have a great week, great month. Have a great LGBT holiday. Be careful out there. Get your HIV test. Men, get screened. Women, get screened. Get in there and see your provider. Get the general stuff, the screening stuff for your age appropriate. Colon test. All these things. All these things can be addressed early if we address them early and you advocate with your provider for change. This is, I believe, radio, 24-hour inspiration and gospel music. We're RTV, right down the street from the Coliseum. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I really want to appreciate your support. I think that we are doing the best we can with what we got. And I just want to say thank you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And as I move in these new phases and transitions, boy, you gotta get a chance to take a trip with me. I'm okay with that. I hope you are too. Again, thank you, and we'll see you next time.